I'm here with Nick Peñaloza, owner of Forte Legato. And the reason I wanted to interview you today is because when I met you a couple of weeks ago, you started telling me your story. I came into your store, obviously to get some coffee. And we just started talking, just having a nice little conversation. And you just started telling me your story, and I thought it was fascinating. And I wanted to get your view on success, how you started to where you're at now. So can you tell the listeners where you're from, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how'd you get here?
Yep. So I guess from is a very, very long story, but I'm originally from the UK in Northampton. So if you go backwards to the 70s when Marcos's reign in the Philippines happened, it was essentially a kleptocracy. So they were appropriating land, businesses, things like that. So my grandparents decided to take the venture out to the United States. And so when my dad was 16, they came out to San Francisco Bay Area, and they allowed all of the kids to essentially be raised in the United States and try to get the best life for them possible. My grandmother was a pharmacist, and she ended up working at a bank in the mortgage industry because her credentials did not apply out here. So essentially they took steps down to be out here. But my father eventually decided to join the Air Force after he finished high school. And when he did that, he got stationed out in Lakenheath in the UK, which is where my mother was. So British citizen from the Northampton area. They met, I believe, at like a dance club. And, that's pretty much everything that happened there. So we moved, I was born off base as a United Kingdom citizen, and then eventually moved out to Germany and then hopped around as a military brat. And that's essentially how I came to the United States.
Now, what brought you to the Rock Hill area?
Oh, wow. So Rock Hill actually happened, it was something that my wife and I were considering maybe back in 2006 or 7 when I was managing a book of clients that were Southeast. So I worked for Bank of America. I was in the foreign exchange operations team, confirming and settling trades. And we had the opportunity to come out here, visit with some of the clients, because usually the operations teams didn't do that. When we came out, we saw how in Charlotte, the life was a little bit more laid back. Things were a lot cheaper than the Bay Area. So we decided that if an opportunity ever came, we would probably jump on it. And so fast forward to 2012, when I was actually running FX operations, and they had the opportunity for us to move out here with 3 different groups. So I relocated 3 groups from the San Francisco Bay Area out here, and then brought my coffee company with me. And the first thing that I asked people, because we had a number of groups move out here, was like, what was one thing you wish you looked at when you moved out to Charlotte? And the majority of the people said, I wish I looked into South Carolina. So we actually put ourselves into Fort Mill, and have since established the coffee company there. And then the roasting company eventually ended in Lancaster. And then we opened up our first retail location here in Rock Hill.
And what year did you start your company here in the Fort Mill area?
Right when we came out. So we had a sole proprietorship in 2011. In California. And so we transferred that to an LLC out here right when we moved out.
And what made you choose the coffee industry?
That's a loaded story. Definitely motivation from the wife. So when I was working on my master's degree, I was drinking a lot of coffee and complaining about how burnt it was and the flavor of it, and why would anybody ever do this? And then my wife came to me and said, look at the credit card statement. You paid $300 to these guys last month, and all you do is complain. So I ended up purchasing a coffee, or not a coffee roaster, but a popcorn maker, and kind of rigged it so that we could roast coffee beans in there.
Wow.
And that first roast was amazing, because I remember it was a Brazilian Cerrado. It was one of the yellow catuais, and it was notes of vanilla and caramel. And after that, I said, I don't need to worry about anybody else. and I'll just roast my own coffee. So the hobby, eventually we had friends buying it, and then it snowballed into something much bigger than that.
So you would say that your inspiration for this company came from your wife?
Absolutely.
And how has she played a role in building the company?
So her role has been probably one of the best support roles. So when we started the company, we designated it, so she owns 51% of the company. And the reason she owns 51% is because when she says that this is too much and she feels like she can pull the plug, she can. But outside of that, she's an avid homeschooler, and takes care of me in the best ways possible to make sure that I can get everything done that I need to, both at Bank of America and also at the coffee company. And that support has been amazing.
Wow. That's key to any successful business, is having that support. With that support, and I know you started very small and you had your friends test the first coffee that you made. How do you build a successful customer base starting the way that you did?
Yeah. So our first customer base was really wholesale outside of online. And the first way to do that is to find somebody that's good at what you do already, and maybe a few further steps down the road. And so I ended up meeting Ron Cortez, who owns Cortez Coffee in Phoenix, Arizona, or Tempe. Flew out there, and because we're not competition, he was willing to take a weekend with me to roast on a 50 kilo commercial roaster. And we maybe roasted for 15 minutes, and he said, now we're done with this, you know how to roast, let's talk about your business model. And so he said, let's start with wholesale, because wholesale, you can have other people tasting your coffee, you focus on the importing, you focus on your farmers, and you focus on the roasting piece, and then you showcase that by helping other people be able to leverage your coffee and use that in their stores. And that's how we started our model, was wholesale only, and then eventually we were able to get to where we are today with a retail store.
Wow, that's incredible. And starting out, just for say some entrepreneurs that may be wanting to start something like what you did, or get this inspiration from you to start a business, no matter what it is, about how many hours would you say that you, on average, would you say in the beginning that you started putting into building your business?
Probably 10 to 20 hours a week. Part of that is determining how to start a business. Remember, when you start and you've never started a business before, there's a lot of things that you've got to figure out. What kind of tax structure are you going to use? Are you going to be an LLC? Are you going to be a corporate? And then on top of that, are there any other regulatory hurdles or any kind of barriers to entry for the business? And for coffee, there really wasn't much of one. There's not as much regulation. So for us, it was really easy to get into. And from there, it's, okay, I want to do this. Rather than trying to plan it too much, just go with something, create a plan, and execute. Because if you don't execute, you're just going to be stuck where you are.
And it sounds like, obviously, that you had a great plan going forward, and you had people, had the motivation from your wife and then your friend that helped you. But even before all that, what were some fears going into this business, or were there any fears at all that you may have had?
Yeah, there are always fears. The fear of failure is always the biggest one. And I feel that is also the same concept that will make you freeze. So taking that into consideration, having that plan, and being able to say, okay, I need to reach out to a couple people, let them try my coffees, just focusing on what you need to do rather than what could happen is what really helped me out. I try not to think about the many scenarios that could happen within that and then go on a downward spiral. It's one foot in front of the other and move forward.
And how did you know that you had the right idea, that coffee was it?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. It was so a lot of people ask, how did you choose coffee, or how did you know that was the right idea? Essentially, when I started, it was a hobby. And once it started bringing in money, it was more like, okay, I've got money going into my personal bank account, and I should be doing something with that. So at that point, that's when it was, okay, I should shift this over to another business entity, and that's where I really got started. I never intended on opening up anything coffee-wise. I just had a passion for it, and once it's like everything kind of fell into place. And whether by being at the right place, right time, and God willing, He put me right there to meet with the right people. That's what happened.
Right, and I know. You've had a lot of successes going forward, and like you said, you had a couple of fears of failure and everything. What are some of the mistakes that you may have encountered that you wish you could have avoided in business that could help someone that's wanting to start a business?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake or the biggest challenge going from one step to the next is biting off more than you can chew. We once tried to onboard, I think, 3 wholesale clients. I think it was like one hotel and 2 restaurants at the same time. And the way that I handle our customers, I'm very hands-on, and trying to manage going to 3 different locations to make sure machines were set up correctly, to make sure that I was getting the coffee deliveries, that everybody was happy. I think one of them ended up shutting down eventually, so I only had 2 left. But I realized that I need to be able to ensure that I have good scalability and that I have the capacity to handle everything that I'm taking on. So once that happened, I ended up rolling it out so that I only have at most 1 to 2 new wholesale clients a month, and trying not to bite off more than you can chew is probably the biggest thing.
Right. And going from that, what is your company's goal in this area? Do you have any goals outside of this area, expanding, franchising, or anything outside? And if so, how do you plan to grow your business outside? If you're not going to franchise, how do you plan to grow your business?
So the growth model is it's a multi-channel business. So we have the wholesale, which is now picking back up. COVID, when it shut down, it shut down, I think, about 95% of the businesses that we worked with, and we had managed to open up right before it. So thankfully, we've had the retail store to keep us afloat. So we've got the wholesale business, we've got the retail business. We also do kegged coffee, which we sell to numerous bars in the area who want coffee on tap. And then we also have an online model. So the goal really is to be able to not necessarily focus on any one of those, but to try to grow each of those organically over time. We're not huge into advertising. A lot of our stuff is word of mouth. And we want to be good at what we do. So, I'm not big into getting huge investors where somebody else will own more of the company and kind of tell me what to do. So that's really, I don't know if I answered the question there, but multi-channel is the way that we try to handle that. We do look at, we still have a couple Marriotts and Ritzes that we're about to get into. And, while we have the store open, we allow people to come in, taste our coffees, and we get to try new things and bring a different customer base. And then we've got the coffee truck, which allows us to go to neighborhoods. And that was how we responded to COVID, is being able to go to neighborhoods in the mornings. We've got certain businesses that are now asking us to be in their business parks. And, thankfully, we've built a lot of that over time that we were able to leverage those once, March came around.
Right. And I've heard obviously a lot of successes in your business model throughout your speech. With that, how do you define success?
That's good. Wow, because success changes from time to time. A lot of businesses look at their profit margins. Right now, success for us is, did I get my payroll and my team paid, every couple weeks? did the last person come in enjoy their cup of coffee on a Saturday morning when I do events and I talk about our farmers, and Matty Fancha comes out from Cameroon and does his demonstrations and speeches about the political issues he deals with as a farmer in Cameroon, but also gets to talk about the seed to cup process, what he has to do to get it onto the boat, and then from the boat over to me for me to roast. Like, those relationships are really what I find is the success. So as long as we have those relationships, whether locally with candies, sweets and treats, or internationally with Matty Fancha, or some of our farmers in Guatemala and Costa Rica, we are able to use the relationships as that success story.
Wow. And I've obviously tasted your coffee. It's extremely good. And, of course, I'm going to be a customer of yours probably for life. But with the great tasting coffee from, me tasting, how do you distinguish yourself from the competition?
I think a lot of the coffees are that a lot of people drink today are commercial coffees. And with commercial coffees, you have a lower quality coffee that you have to roast a little bit longer, and that means you have to roast out defects. When you roast out defects, you're actually going to be tasting some of those burnt or char flavors. And because we're a smaller company, we have the ability to purchase higher quality coffee where you can actually taste the different flavors between coffees, and that's really one of the things that we like to play towards is we have a lot of medium to medium dark roast coffees that are great for espresso, that are great for pour overs via a Hario E60 or something like the Kalita Wave right there, and we can showcase those and educate people on how to do that, and that's probably the one of the items that separates us from others.
Right. And if you had some advice to give to someone wanting to start a business based on your success, what would that advice be?
So for anybody trying to start a business, I'd say the biggest thing is if you can find someone in the industry that you're looking into that is good at what they do, but not competition, go on and meet with them, network. Ask questions. If you're taking a lot of their time, pay them to actually, to consult. When I first got into this, I thought maybe it would be a coffee house we'd open up. And then once I had that weekend with Ron, I realized, nope, I don't want a coffee house right now. I want to focus on the importing and the roasting process. And because of that, I was able to get a good knowledge of the industry and what were the key factors that I needed to look into to make sure that my business was successful with relationships, but also profitable too.
Well, listen, you've given me a great interview, and I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come in your shop. And I know you're a very busy person, and there are a lot of people coming in here, drinking your coffee, trying a lot of your products, a lot of your food that's out there. Mm-hmm. It's great too. But I just really want to thank you so much for allowing me to come in here, sit down with you, pick your brain a little bit about success. And that's, like I said earlier, that's the reason I wanted to come in here, because success stories motivate me. Mm-hmm. And when I heard yours the other day, I just had to get you on camera. So before we go, any final thoughts that you want to say, or?
No, just we're happy to be in Rock Hill. We just came here in February, and it's a very exciting place. We've been able to network with a lot of different food groups in the area, and there's a lot of great food and a lot of great food things happening here. So stay tuned for other relationships and other restaurants and things like that. We're very happy to call this home right now, and we hope to bring newer coffees and newer farmers once COVID is over, so that everybody can come in and actually meet the farmer that grew the coffee and be able to shake his hand and taste the coffee and say, oh, this is a great cup of coffee.